This segment of JTV News is brought to you by Clarence Thomas Limited, Infinite Solutions, and Caribbean Sellers.
At the start of Texas financier Alan Stanford's trial on criminal fraud charges in U.S. federal court in Houston on Tuesday, prosecutors said that Alan Stanford used lies and bribes to steal the hard-earned savings of his customers. The 61-year-old Stanford is charged with using his Houston-based financial empire to swindle investors of more than $7 billion. Stanford has pleaded not guilty to the 14-count indictment. At the heart of Stanford's alleged fraud are certificates of deposit sold by his Antigua-based Stanford International Bank Limited to about 28,000 investors. Among the allegations is a claim that he bribed an Antiguan banking regulator to ignore irregularities. Robert Scardino, one of Stanford's lawyers, said that Stanford will take the stand to answer any questions the prosecution has and to talk about his charitable works in Antigua. Receivers are still trying to locate the money that was invested with the Stanford Financial Group and its affiliate companies, but indications are that Stanford's lavish globe-trotting lifestyle, including the sponsorship of multi-million-dollar Caribbean cricket tournaments, may have consumed most of it. The opening of the 54th meeting of the OECS Authority began on Monday, the 23rd of January, at the Bay Gardens Hotel in Rodney Bay, St. Lucia. The OECS Authority meeting was chaired by St. Lucia's Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony. The OECS heads discussed a wide range of issues at the meeting, including a strategic vision and response to the global economic crisis.
Heads of government from the various OECS member states met under the chairmanship of St. Lucian Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony, who assumed the post of chairman from Stephenson King. On the agenda for the 54th meeting of the OECS Authority were issues of the OECS development strategy, including a draft tourism policy, the OECS Economic Union Treaty implementation, and the OECS Maritime Governance and draft laws to support e-government. The OECS Authority chairman addressed the 54th meeting, lauding the accomplishments of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States over the years, but also cautioning members about the vast amount of work that still needs to be accomplished amidst globally challenging times.
The exigencies of our times demand that we cease to be constantly reactive. We must instead take time to address the directional issues, the culture-building issues, the deep analysis of problems, the assessment and seizing of new opportunities, and the visioning that would allow us to build lasting structures for the future. For these reasons, this 54th meeting of the OECS Authority cannot be business as usual. Much work has already been done. Some of our major benchmarks have been achieved, and within the deadlines we have set: treaty signing on June 18, 2010, operationalization of Economic Union January 21, 2011, and free movement of people on August 1st.
Dr. Anthony, in his address, urged the heads of OECS member states to enable their citizens to grow more confident in the initiatives embarked upon by the authority. Dr. Anthony says OECS heads need to lead by example in demonstrating confidence and following through on what they commit to as part of the OECS authority. The Prime Minister called for ending the cynicism which revolves around OECS initiatives, chief among them being the OECS Economic Union and free movement of people.
I therefore wish to encourage those OECS member states which have not yet done so to put in place the required legislation and administrative arrangements to give effect to the right of free movement in accordance with the provisions of the revised treaty, and to do so as a matter of urgent priority. I also wish to encourage those member states which have yet to bring the revised Treaty of Basel into domestic law to do so expeditiously in order that we can all proceed with the business of getting the OECS Economic Union functioning in a way that truly resonates with the people of our region.
Dr. Anthony also outlined a number of other issues to be addressed, including the impact of global warming and the global financial crisis. Meanwhile, OECS Director General Dr. Len Ishmael also addressed the gathering, outlining some of the future goals of the organization.
Work has also begun on a new development strategy to put in place policies aimed at stability, growth and transformation of OECS economies. The challenge today, however, is the need to handle the uncertainty of these times through short-term interventions aimed at promoting stability while at the same time laying the foundation for economic transformation and growth over the long term.
The opening ceremony was also addressed by the new Premier of the British Virgin Islands, Dr. Orlando Smith, who called for a focus on crime as a common issue amongst OECS states. Lovely St. Amy Joseph, HTS News, Channel 4.
The United Kingdom and the Caribbean held talks during the 7th UK-Caribbean Forum in Grenada, aimed at renewing and revitalizing their relationship. The high-level delegations from across the Caribbean and the United Kingdom discussed issues in the forum which saw what UK Foreign Secretary William Hague described as the largest ministerial delegation to the Caribbean in many, many years. It was highlighted by the announcement that the UK would fund the region with $7.6 million for climate change response. That funding comes as part of a $116.7 million development program in the Caribbean this year from the UK. The two sides agreed on an action plan covering several themes including economic resilience, security, climate change, and sustainable development. They also agreed to enhance collaboration and coordination in the anti-drug fight, along with greater intelligence sharing, criminal justice reform, and targeting the proceeds of crime. Also covered in the talks was the British air passenger duty, which has generated some controversy within the region. Further talks between UK officials and tourism delegates from the Caribbean region over the air passenger duty implemented in 2009 were held over the weekend. The lobbying began since its implementation but has had no effect on the decision of the UK government's stance. Tourism officials around the region have since proposed to continue lobbying until a change is made.
The battle continues between governments of the Caribbean and the UK over the air passenger duty, so much so that the UK Caribbean Forum between regional representatives and the UK Foreign Affairs Office was used as an opportunity to again register dissatisfaction with the tax. Regional governments contend that since the implementation of the APD in 2009, the region has registered a marked decline in arrivals from that country. For some, like St. Lucia, the UK is a major tourism source market. St. Lucia was represented at that weekend meeting in Grenada by Foreign Affairs Minister Alva Baptiste.
We had some very interesting and important discussions regarding the APD, and clearly the posture assumed by the UK officials was one that our arguments attracted the sympathy. Nothing definitive was arrived at, for the simple reason that it was the Department of Finance that actually imposed the APD, and no commitment was given as to when the APD will be reviewed or removed.
Baptiste says the Caribbean representatives, who have waged a long and costly fight against the tax thus far, made it very clear the lobbying would continue.
The Caribbean islands made it abundantly clear that this is an issue that is important to us, it's important to our survival, whilst we do not want to convey that feeling and spirit of dependency. We are very concerned that things that are detrimental to us, which we have to respond to it. And so the conclusion at the meeting was that we are going to leave that particular agenda item open. So we are going to negotiate with patience and persistence until agreement is reached on that specific issue.
The 7th Ministerial UK Caribbean Forum was held in St. George's, Grenada. St. Justin, HTS News, Channel 4.
St. Lucia's government is taking a proactive approach in trying to prevent a widespread destruction of its banana sector by the black sigatoka disease. The government has sought help from a team of experts at the University of the West Indies and has taken a number of steps to try and stop its spread. Agriculture Minister Moses Jean-Baptiste said that the black sigatoka disease has become a national crisis and calls for urgent and decisive action. The government has authorized help for farmers in the form of fungicides to spray their plantations, and the ministry has prepared a proposal which suggests the creation of a task force to deal with the disease.